Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wi-Fi Now TV in association with RCR Wireless News. My name is Klaus Hetting, and I'm your host. On this show, we've got David Morken, CEO of Bandwidth, the parent company of Republic Wireless. He's going to talk about Wi-Fi First. Republic, of course, the original Wi-Fi First service provider in the United States. He's coming up in just a moment. Also, Frederick Jungerman of T-Efficient. He is, to my knowledge, the world's foremost telco efficiency expert. And we're going to talk to him about how carriers are using Wi-Fi to boost their businesses around the world or not. So join us right after this message.
Nexius, accelerating network and business transformation.
Telecom Careers, the #1 global telecom and wireless job board, telecomcareers.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Wi-Fi Now TV. Today, as I mentioned, we've got David Morken on the show, and we're going to interview him in just a second. A little bit later, coming up in the show, Frederick Jungerman of T-Efficient, a great analyst. Before we do that, I just want to point out a couple of things to you. And the first thing is my own personal plug. It's Wi-Fi Now, the conference coming up in Amsterdam this 17th to 19th of November. If you have not made plans to come to that conference in one of the great cities in Europe, do it now. Go to Wi-Fi Now events.com/Europe. Check out our program. All of the European Wi-Fi industry will be there. Lots of people from other countries. I want you to go after the show. After that conference, you will not only have had a great time, you will also be enlightened. So please make sure you register for that. Also, my LinkedIn group is called Wi-Fi Now Forum. We've got about 4,000, a little bit more than 4,000 great Wi-Fi enthusiasts on that group. I want you to go to LinkedIn, search on that, and join the group. There's lots of debates, discussions, analysis, news items every day. It's a great community in there, and please join it. If you apply, I'll approve it immediately. So make sure you don't miss those two things. All right, on to our first guest, David Morken, CEO of Bandwidth, the parent company of Republic Wireless. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Klaus. Great to be here. Good
to see you, David. And maybe you can start by telling us, of course, Republic Wireless was the original. I don't know if you know, if you like the term Wi-Fi First. I tend to call it that because most people understand it. But it's the original Wi-Fi First service provider ever, I think. Where did you get the idea for creating such a service provider? Can you tell us about that?
Well, first of all, I think Wi-Fi First as a label is terrific. It appropriately identifies the way that our service works. We always want to use Wi-Fi if available. And the reason that it came about was simply because we recognized all around us Wi-Fi was emerging and prevalent and faster and better. And why didn't our Android phones natively on the handset utilize Wi-Fi for calling and texting? And the answer was that the OEMs hadn't built the phones for the network providers to have recourse to Wi-Fi natively. And so we forked Android, partnered with Motorola, launched in 2011. I think we were about a month before Free.fr in France. But it was really just recognition that Wi-Fi was something we were using much of the time.
Right, and now, of course, a number of other companies have had the same thought. But tell us maybe a few things about what you've learned over the past, 3-4 years? You launched in 2011?
We did. We launched in 2011, and we've learned a number of things. Chief among them probably include handsets are very, very important. We've had a limited number of handsets we've been able to use because initially we've had to get into the ROM and make sure we could switch radios. So handsets are very, very important. Another critical factor we learned was handover between Wi-Fi and cellular had to be seamless. You could not have a 5-second delay in a call or a ringback, a clunky ringback experience. Users demanded, after we initially launched with a delay handover that wasn't seamless, they demanded that calls be uninterrupted and that codecs be normalized so that call quality upon handoff was unchanged. And we were able to achieve that after another couple of years of great work. So handover needs to be seamless. Handsets are important, and you still have to have a good set of handsets. And so we have a good, better, and a best handset. But those are two key learnings. And then I guess a third, Klaus, would just be handover from Wi-Fi to cellular is terrific, but we've found that going back from cellular to Wi-Fi is equally important, and we've achieved an additional 9% of handover success to Wi-Fi by enabling that path in a seamless fashion, which was an explosively large number for us on top of the handover numbers that we were already achieving.
Right. So you're using your own in-house technology to facilitate these handovers. Is that correct? This is something you've developed.
That's correct. It's all in-house.
Right. And can you tell me something about how things are going on the market side? I mean, I read somewhere, I think it was yesterday, that the average price of a Republic Wireless plan, if you can call it that, is less than $15. So it's way below what a lot of people in the United States pay. They pay maybe more, up to $100. So potentially there's a big market for that. But how do you see the market developing for this?
That's right. I think it's $14.78 perhaps. And that's a reflection of using Wi-Fi and how important Wi-Fi is. I will say that even as our ARPUs go down, our profitability has actually improved as we continue to enjoy Wi-Fi networks rising. So we're big fans of lowering total cost of ownership. That's our mission. That's what we want to do. And so our plan is actually a $10 base plan, all you can eat, talk, and text, and then $15 a gig. And then we refund you any amount that you don't use. And so it's really only pay for what you use.
So how do you see, for example, the entrance of Google into this market? I mean, I'm just guessing, but I think it may have raised awareness, generally speaking, of the availability of these. It might actually help you in fact.
Yeah, and that's a great question, Klaus. And you also asked about marketing, and I failed to answer that. So we haven't spent any money of any significance on marketing and have grown significantly, doubling subscribers twice last year. We're still below 500,000 subscribers in the US. Our focus is on the product. And when we think we've got the product nailed, then we'll shift to scale. But we're still learning so much. And we've got over 30 patents in the US on technology that's very novel, that's important to get right. And so that's really the focus, more than spending on customer acquisition yet. That time will come, and when it does, we'll have our work cut out for us, but hopefully the value of the product will speak for itself. Project Fi, it's always good to have additional folks in the vanguard challenging the status quo. So I applaud what they've done. They don't have seamless handover yet, or handover even back into Wi-Fi, but I'm sure they'll get there, and they'll do it in a novel way because they're Google. So we know that team, we admire that team, and we welcome them. The water's warm, and we're glad they're joining us.
Yeah, great. So can you say something about the potential size? I mean, the size of the market. I mean, I suppose everybody in the United States would like to pay $15 for their mobile subscription. I admire Frederick's work and Tefficient's and follow closely the work that they do. And I think some of the numbers really speak for themselves. And I'll add to some of that knowledge. On our subscriber handsets, we're seeing more than 90% of all IP packets transiting Wi-Fi, not cell. Over 90% of all SMS are now over IP, Wi-Fi or cell IP, but all over IP for us almost. And approaching 50% of all of our calls are now over Wi-Fi specifically. So how large is the market, Klaus? I think the way we think more and more about cellular, it's not just cellular second. It's really just cellular when you're moving. If you're transient, you have cellular, but the moment you stop, it's just much more frequent that you're going to have Wi-Fi. So I think the sky's the limit, and Wi-Fi will continue to have quite a lot of upside. So we're basically talking about you need your cellular connection when you're on the street or in your car, essentially, and even in the car is being challenged, right? So one of the other service providers says, more than 90% of the time, probably that number is even increasing, right?
It is, and with the advent of super cheap storage, what we're seeing are folks binge watching entire seasons of content using the storage on their device. And so between storage costs coming so far down and Wi-Fi rising, cellular, I think, it's relegated to a supporting position worldwide.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I like that. I like that vision. Anyway, I wanted to ask you, about Project Salsa, because the handoff from cellular to Wi-Fi, as you also just mentioned, is a lot harder than from Wi-Fi to cellular. I hope I got the order correct there. So this is again your proprietary technology at Bandwidth that you're developing to facilitate two-way handover, if you like. Can you tell us a little bit about the status of the Salsa project and what you're seeing?
Yeah, the Salsa project was really how we build product at Republic. It's collaborative, it's community-based. We don't come out from behind the green curtain with a magic trick that we've designed ourselves. We work really hard with our customers, and so we invited thousands and thousands to test drive with us and perfect the algorithm for cellular back to Wi-Fi. And it is hard, and it is very different, because you end up in a circumstance where your algorithm initially for us would ping pong us back and forth between Wi-Fi and cellular, and that's not helpful. It's not what we want. So thousands and thousands of nationwide subscribers had a version of our software on their phone, or in many cases had a specific purpose-built phone to perfect Salsa. And what it has yielded, again, are an additional 9 percentage points of overall offload onto Wi-Fi for our voice calls. That's a tremendous number on top of what we were already achieving. But it took us, I got to tell you, Klaus, the better part of a year or more to get it right. And we're continuing to monitor now across hundreds of thousands of users the patterns of behavior, the call quality, and continue to improve it. And that's where a lot of the secret sauce are in the trade secret stuff that only comes from the big data learning. So we'll get better and better. We suck less every day was our original slogan. And Salsa, our community members have really helped us do that.
Yeah, excellent. And this is actually handoffs from circuit switched cellular, as I understand it, to Wi-Fi, right? Which certainly does not, at least in my mind, make it any easier, right?
We can do both, and circuit switched voice to Wi-Fi is tough.
Right, exactly. So tell me what you think is going to happen in the future. Are the big carriers going to catch on to this? Because right now, you guys, 500,000 subscribers, not quite, still growing a lot, as I understood from what you said before. But in terms of the big numbers out there in the market, are they concerned about it? They obviously must be concerned about this. When are they going to catch on and start doing something similar, do you think? Or will they?
One of their plans may be to really push LTE-U in an unfriendly way on the unlicensed spectrum. That's a concern for a lot of folks, us included. We partner with Sprint and with another carrier in the US that we haven't announced yet, but we have 2 agreements now with cell providers to power our service. And I think that everyone will end up following the technology and the adoption, and it's inevitable. And the question will become, what business models among the big cell companies, how will those business models need to change? But it's inevitable that they will change based upon the technology and where it's going.
Right. Do you, I had another question. I was just trying to remember what it was. I want to ask you this first. Do you have any plans for international expansion? Because we've not seen yet these Wi-Fi first type business models arrive in Europe. I think, as far as I know, Freedom Pop has a plan for the UK. Don't know the specifics of it, but how about Republic?
The coolest thing about international on Republic it's really only germane for the US, which is every Republic subscriber that goes overseas on Wi-Fi can call the US and be called from the US for the cost of their plan. But we don't have any specific plans in the near term to go anywhere else at the moment. The technology, though, will be applicable. All the breakthroughs we're making will be applicable in many jurisdictions, but all of our capital is being deployed in the US to perfect the service, and only after that will we really go after additional markets.
Very good. And in terms of the Wi-Fi footprint, the infrastructure footprint that you use, do you, can you explain where that comes from? Because some of the other Wi-Fi first service providers don't actually team up with anybody. They just use whatever open, free, or Wi-Fi people have access to. The other option, of course, is to team up with somebody who has somebody like Boingo or iPass or DeviceGate or somebody like that who has aggregated the footprint of some sort. Can you explain your approach there?
So Klaus, our approach has been to solve for your office and your home, and third place Wi-Fi, public place Wi-Fi was a nice to have for us, not a must to have. So the business model was premised upon the 85% of the time that you're at home or office, and that was enough for us to get off the ground. We should soon be able to add aggregated hotspot partners in a single sign-on or credentialed way within the phone experience, so that you don't have to always credential into an airport or a hotel network. And there's a lot of upside for us to do that, but our approach has been to grow it off of your home and office Wi-Fi environments only.
Very good. David, can I ask you just again about LTEU? Because I'm also one of the people that are very concerned about it. If you ask me as an analyst, I don't think it will happen at scale, but I am concerned about potentially the effect it will have. And are we doing enough in the Wi-Fi industry to address this issue? I know Google has voiced their concerns, obviously Wi-Fi Alliance. But the forces that, if you like, the marketing machine and the publicity machine we're up against with the folks on the cellular side is big, right? Are we doing enough, and should we do more, and if so, how?
That's a fair question, Klaus. I think that there's a lot at stake, no question about it. But I'm fundamentally optimistic or bullish that the right thing will be done, and for a couple of reasons. The first is if I've invested in a hotspot and hardware in my home and in my office to support my network, my devices, and suddenly I have an invasive protocol that's messing with that environment, no one's going to stand for that. So the practical reality is that Wi-Fi's ascendancy has already got a spent amount of infrastructure involved, and so I think you'll have folks who really do react. The other is, it would be interesting to respond to LTE with the following. We're fine with LTEU if we can have Wi-Fi L, which is to say, if we can, if I can push the Wi-Fi protocol on Verizon's licensed band in the office and home, that's a great trade. I'll take that trade all day. You want to use LTEU? Give me Wi-Fi L.
I say we propose that. I'm gonna send a letter to Verizon and say we want to use LTEU.
It's Klaus's initiative. We'll call it Frederick. If we can get Frederick to sign on, the three of us can support it, and let's publish it. Wi-Fi L.
Wi-Fi L is really, really good. I haven't heard that one before. Really good. David, it's really great to have you on the show. I wish you lots and lots of luck with the Republic and all the other activities, and I want you to come back and tell us more in not too long, okay? So, and I also know you have to catch a flight, so we're going to leave it here, but thank you so much for coming on and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you as well, Klaus and Frederick. Look forward to getting together sometime soon. And thanks for all the great work to both of you.
Welcome. Good to see you.
You bet.
All right. That was David Morken of Republic Wireless. And we're on to our next guest. And I've actually been chasing Frederick Youngerman to come on and do a video interview with me for a long time. And he's a very busy man. He's working as an analyst, as a telecom efficiency analyst, one of the few in the world, if not the only one. And I'm very happy that you're on the show, Frederick. Welcome to Wi-Fi Now.
Thank you.
So,
I'm still smiling here on my end about David's Wi-Fi L.
Wi-Fi L, yes, I love that. So I think we should start a club. We read down a what's it called, memorandum or something. We said, I think it's a great idea. So, Frederick, let's talk about what carriers are doing around the world with Wi-Fi, how they're using it to boost their businesses or not. And you've been studying this for a while now. You've written a couple of reports on this issue where you take I think it's fair to say, a global view where you look at what the various carriers across the world are doing. Here's the billion-dollar question. Have carriers, generally speaking, been successful from an efficiency point of view, a financial point of view, in incorporating Wi-Fi into their service fabric, if you like? And if so, how do you see that success having come about?
And that's a very good question. So it's $1 million question then, obviously, Klaus. But I think Wi-Fi is very powerful when it comes to one aspect, and that's customer loyalty. And a lot of operators globally have realized that if I include Wi-Fi in my offering, I'm actually will be able to keep on to my customers. They will keep on to me a bit longer than they otherwise would have. but the reporting of it is obviously scattered and not too much about it. So you have to guess here and there. But if you put up my first picture there,
Daniel, can you do that?
Exemplify.
Okay. Yeah.
So we can see here now that there are a number of operators that originally started their Wi-Fi approach, like BT in the UK, like Telia in Sweden, and like the Cloud, which is actually owned by Sky, the broadcaster in the UK. All of them have actually changed names of their Wi-Fi offerings. So not only have they brought up their own brand names in it, but they also added Wi-Fi. And clearly, you know, Wi-Fi as a term or Wi-Fi as a word is very powerful when it speaks very well with customers. And that's the reason why operators want to bring it up. So that's an indication of success. You could also look at, Asia, countries like very advanced countries like Korea and Japan, and you can see that mobile operators in those countries have built hundreds of thousands of Wi-Fi hotspots, actually as many or even more as what they built cellular base stations. And of course, they wouldn't have done that just random as a test. This is clearly adding value to their business.
Right. So so if we talk about the retention model where you give away, presumably in most cases it's giving away free Wi-Fi, is there any evidence that you've seen, financial evidence to public evidence to support that this is actually working out for them?
Yeah, we could look at, we should separate now perhaps cable codes or MSOs as we call it in the States, the cable TV operators. When they used Wi-Fi, when they included, we've seen examples from Europe, for example, of operators being able to report a lower churn on their base services, their base television services, because they included Wi-Fi to it. So I think, there is a number of things you can do as an operator to keep customers, to keep them loyal, and Wi-Fi is probably one of the more powerful ones. Mm-hmm. It's also interesting if we look at my second picture there, the one on Singtel. You could see that Singtel did, and this is, you would perhaps say that this is not rocket science, this is not super advanced, but what they did is very, very good, because they increased their ARPU. They said, okay, let's create a new type of plan, which we call the combo plan. Combo basically means mobile plus Wi-Fi. So from now on, dear customers in Singapore, you will go with us. You will not only get mobile data, you would also get Wi-Fi included. And then they raised the prices with something like $2 Singapore dollars. So if you didn't like that price increase, you could obviously go to someone else than Singtel. There are two other mobile operators in Singapore. Interesting thing is that they really actually gained customers after that change, and they also gained ARPU, obviously, because everyone is now paying more.
So that's actually one of the few cases, correct me if I'm wrong, where an operator has embraced Wi-Fi and actually get people to pay more for access to Wi-Fi hotspots on the network. Yeah,
and they gave some new numbers now, and the usage is high among their user base, and they also implemented the EAP SIM so that terminals automatically go on Wi-Fi as quickly as they can. And I think it's one of few models. You might call it not super advanced, but maybe we're going in a direction where eventually mobile operators will say, dear customer, you don't need to care on what technology your call or your data transmission is carried on, 2G, 3G, 4G, or Wi-Fi. We will take care of that for you, and you will be charged according to how much you use. So sort of a technology agnostic monetization model in which a megabyte is a megabyte. It costs the same, and it will always be carried where it's actually best carried.
So is that happening? Is that actually happening anywhere to your knowledge? I'm not a super expert on the Korean market, but I know they are doing some super advanced things in carrier Wi-Fi in Korea.
No, I think your start was right, Klaus. Most operators today are giving Wi-Fi away. So you can say that the pricing of mobile data is essentially too high because the pricing of Wi-Fi data is zero then. So the average is approximately right.
Yeah.
So I think the first operator who dares to actually start counting the allowances to raise the caps to a much higher level than today and start including public Wi-Fi in it as well,
right,
could actually be quite successful with it.
uh-huh. So if we turn to one of the other business models that have at least been suggested, and I suppose to some extent is at a nascent stage of being accepted, it's the idea of offering personal data in return for free Wi-Fi. And we're already seeing various companies working along this path. And how do you see that? Do you think that's a viable model for going forward?
Yeah, and we've seen some, evidence on that people are willing to give up whatever to get Wi-Fi. I think it's very much a pricing thing. If as long as there's a big price differential between how data is carried on mobile network or Wi-Fi, then people are willing to give up their credentials and Facebook aliases and email addresses and you name it in order to get Wi-Fi. But honestly, I think the awareness is slowly increasing on the security risks on public Wi-Fi. And that's also an opportunity for operators, because if they can offer carrier-grade Wi-Fi with security and without privacy risk, people might actually be willing to pay for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And security is a big thing. I know that for carriers. And I actually had one gentleman from Orange come on one of my conferences, and his first slide was a picture of the Twin Towers. This was his view of Wi-Fi security. Mm-hmm. So it's a big thing, no question about it. So if we maybe talk a little bit about cable operators and their role in embracing Wi-Fi and so on, how do you see them approaching the mobile market with a Wi-Fi offering of sorts? Is that something you see a future in?
Absolutely. And I mean, cable operators have great asset in the fact that they connect millions of homes in countries, and which means that they cover actually large parts of the countries. And it's very easy to use the home gateways of people as Wi-Fi gateways, as home spots, which is very cost effective for the MSO or for the cable operator. And the primary driver to do this, I think, is that cable operators normally do not have a mobile license, but with this type of solution, they can be mobile or they can be semi-mobile. So it's sort of a Wi-Fi first approach of cable operators, and the primary objective is to disrupt the market, disrupt the mobile players, disrupt the integrated operators that have both mobile and fixed.
And in the case where it's a cable operator with who's also an MVNO, for example, that strengthens presumably the home spot / MVNO business case.
And there you have a totally different driver, Klaus, because if you take Telenet in Belgium, which is a great example of a cable co, has been very early with Wi-Fi and home spots.
We have a slide for that, actually. Bringing that up.
You can hold it on a few seconds. But, all right, never mind. They could actually save on their MVNO bill, because being an MVNO is normally not very profitable. But if you can actually carry as a cable co, if you can offload, sorry for using the term, traffic from the mobile network, which is not your network, onto your own Wi-Fi network, you're going to save a fortune. And if we have that picture up now on Telenet, you could see that there's a significant share of their traffic, out-of-home traffic, which is actually offloaded. So Telenet customers, when they're out of home, they're using a majority. The majority of the traffic is actually carried over hot and home spots rather than over mobile.
So actually, I remember that, right, exactly. I remember that slide well, but it's predominantly home spots it's carried over. There's also some public Wi-Fi, but it's actually a big percentage difference between the people using it or not. But this is actually proof that the home spot model actually can carry a lot of data.
Yeah. And Telenet is also an example of someone who actually monetized on it, because when they increased their prices recently by the end of the year or the beginning of this year, they said that the specific reason for doing that was that people could save on their mobile bills because of the automatic offloading using EAP SIM. So that's a way for Telenet to make money. Having said that now Telenet is owned by Liberty Global. A bit disappointing to see that what are these guys doing after having built this fantastic Wi-Fi proposition? Well, they still went and bought the third mobile operator in Belgium, Base. Now that's not accepted yet by EU, etc., and regulators, but maybe they were just opportunistic, or maybe they actually did see that they needed to start sourcing with 1 million mobile customers in Belgium. They're actually quite sizable, and maybe they felt that they needed to own a mobile network to get the right cost structure.
Yes, that kind of messed up your very nice theory that you had.
Yeah, the story was better before, but now let's see what happens.
Yeah, sure. No, it's good. No, I want to ask you about the Wi-Fi first business model as we see it in the United States. Now, I think we recognize that America is a different market than in Europe, where we have a lot more players actually.
Yeah.
And we've been mobile broadband. Very strong in mobile broadband for many years. So do you see a future for that kind of business model in Europe, or are the prices still too low for that in Europe?
I think there is a future, but to be honest, the decision recently to make roaming in EU a mandatory thing in June 2017 will make it less attractive as an alternative, because I think especially FON's proposition has been that you can not only use Wi-Fi out of home, you could actually be out of country as well, which totally takes away the roaming issue, which has been a big issue in EU in general. But now with the decision of the politicians, every operator latest by June 2017 will have to offer a mobile customer a roam like home type of solution, which might mean that this international aspect of Wi-Fi roaming. But let's see. I mean, I'm sure the prices are lower in Europe compared to US, and that might mean that there are less push for it compared to US. But I'm sure someone will give it a try, and they might well come from the States.
Yes. I think you're right in that. Very good. So, Frederick, in your experience and from all the analysis work that you've done in this space, and by the way, we're going to post a link on the website below this report so that people can download your very good report. In your experience, what would you recommend for carriers? I know this is a very big question. Get carriers who want to use Wi-Fi to their benefit. I mean, I think it's obviously depends on whether you're cable co-am, what kind of configuration you're working with. Any final brilliant thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think operators in general, or telcos in general, they should realize how powerful it is to associate yourself with the term Wi-Fi or with the word Wi-Fi. And so do that. One of the best things you can do to keep your customers loyal is likely to include Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi, in whatever mobile plans you're selling. So make it somehow technology agnostic. Look at how Singtel done, or make it even more advanced. Because if you can come with a combined carrier grade proposition towards customers, you could definitely prosper. Customers are happy for Wi-Fi predominantly because it's free, but they're also worried about the security and privacy risks. So do it carrier grade, do it with your own brand and in a controlled and integrated way, and that will be.
And also, for example, in Europe, it's a very different situation than in the US, where there's a lot of Wi-Fi, a lot more than in Europe, certainly public access Wi-Fi. Outside of the hotspots, the home spots. There's a lot of home spots in Europe, right? So it's a different situation, right? Would European carriers need to start going out and actually making this happen themselves, building more Wi-Fi hotspots out there? Is that a viable option, or do they need to partner with somebody who would be willing to build it? That's a complex issue, right?
Yeah, and I think we will see both models. I believe telcos traditional telcos incumbents that believe in this, they will start doing it on their own, or they will partner with someone like FON, for example. But I think we'll see new aggregators coming into the picture. And why do it yourself if there's someone you can source it from? There are ways to control quality, SLAs, etc., so that you can guarantee that your customers are given priority and high quality.
Mm-hmm. Great stuff, Fredrik. I thank you so much for being on the show this week, and we want to hear more from you. We're also going to post a link to Fredrik's report. It's very good, and you've got to download that. And also, by the way, Fredrik is speaking at our Wi-Fi Now Amsterdam event, the conference coming up in November, and you also get to meet him in person. So please make sure that you come and meet all of us there. Thanks, Fredrik. All right, so the last thing I want to say today is what we're going to do on next week's show. And this is exciting because on next week's show, we're going to be talking about Google Project Fi. Now, not with the Google people, because I don't think I can get the Google people to come on the show. Although if you are listening, Google people, please come on the show. I've, however, managed to actually, a gentleman by the name of Nicholas Armstrong, he's VP of Engineering of Provala, came to me and asked me, can I show my findings on your show? And I said, absolutely. And what he has done is he's tested the Google Fi product very carefully, and he has, from a technical point of view, to figure out how all the handoffs and everything works. He's going to come on next week, and we're going to pick apart what Google is doing technically on the device side with handoffs and everything on next week's show. So that's going to be fun. Also, very important, LTE Wi-Fi aggregation, or LWA. What is that? Well, next week, we're going to have Qualcomm come on the show. It's going to be my good friend Gerardo Giaretta. He's the program manager and brains behind the LWA work that Qualcomm is doing. It's a very, very promising way of combining LTE and Wi-Fi into a single stream of data to and from your device. It's completely different from LTE-U. I like it a lot better. We're going to have Gerardo come on and explain all of that. It should get a lot more attention, hopefully, after next week. So 2 things next week, Google Project Fi, I should say, and LWA. Join us. And it's, as usual, same place, same time, right here on Wi-Fi Now TV. Thanks to all my guests, David Morken and Fredrik Jungerman. See you here next week. Thanks, everybody.
Wi-Fi Now is a production of RCR TV News. To suggest a show topic or to learn more about Wi-Fi Now events, you can reach Klaus Hedding at klaus@heddingconsulting.com. To find out more about Wi-Fi Now and all things wireless, visit rcrwireless.com.